Okay, today's team analysis for Strat-O-Matic will be the 1986 New York Mets. I've done numerous videos in series involving the New York Mets, including my 1980s National League Strat-O-Matic tournament, in which the Mets uh, won that tournament and then lost to the 1989 Oakland A's in the Strat-O-Matic finals. But in this video, I'm going to be doing an in-depth research and analysis on the 1986 New York Mets. So first, let's get started right off with the offense. And you've heard me talk about in the past how much of a fan I am of the 1986 Mets offensively. Right at the top of the lineup, when they face right-hand hitting, when you look at Lenny Dykstra and Wally Backman and what good weapons they are at getting on base, you're going to see here that against right-handed pitching, both Dykstra and Backman will reach base 11 out of 33 chances if you roll their cards. That is obviously against right-handed pitching. Wally Backman did not start against lefties. Both very similar cards, very good at getting on base. Obviously, Lenny Dykstra's card has a little bit more power. Wally Backman was more of a singles hitter. But as far as setting the table, it doesn't get a whole heck of a lot better than that, as they both have a chance of reaching base at least 11 out of 33 chances when you roll their card against right handed pitching. Now, against left handed pitching, even though I know the um, Stratomatic team recap that they supply with the special team series set. According to their lineup setup for the 1986 Mets, they had Mookie Wilson hitting leadoff and Kevin Mitchell hitting second. I don't play that way when I play with the 1986 Mets. I always have Len Dykstra leading off, and against lefties, I have Kevin Mitchell hitting second and playing left field and put Mookie Wilson on the bench. Now, when you analyze Len Dykstra's card against left-handed pitching, again, he gets on base at pretty much the same clip as he does right-handed pitching. He gets on base possibly 10 times out of 33 chances on his card. And Kevin Mitchell is absolutely terrific against left-handed pitching. He reaches base possibly 13 times out of 33 chances on his card. So the New York Mets, as far as the table setters go, Len Dykstra against righties and lefties, Wally Backman against righties, and insert Kevin Mitchell into the two hole against lefties. That is just terrific on base chances with the top of the lineup there for the 1986 New York Mets. Now, let's analyze the Mets middle of the order here, where they have Keith Hernandez, Gary Carter, and Darryl Strawberry, just to go through their numbers real quick. And again, I analyze the middle of the lineup guys by how many two asterisk hits or hits do they have where players can or will advance at least two bases on a hit, whether it's a two asterisk hit, a double, a home run, anything that moves the table setters around. Well, when you look at Keith Hernandez versus lefties, he has 5 hits on his card against lefties, and against righties, he has 7 multiple advance hits. So those numbers are a little bit low and not ideal for a number 3 hitter. And then you look at Gary Carter versus lefties and righties. He has 5 hits on his card versus lefties and righties. So again, that's not ideal. You look at Darryl Strawberry against left-handed pitching. Again, we come to the number 5 multiple advance hits out of 33 chances. However, against righties, he has 9 out of 33 chances. So Darryl Strawberry, especially against right-handed pitching, is really one of the real run producers for the 1986 Mets. However, when you dig a little deeper into the Met lineup, and this is really where their offense really sticks out above most teams. When you dig a little deeper into their lineup, if you take a look at Ray Knight and you see what he's able to do against left-handed pitching, he has 9 multiple advance hits out of 33 chances on his card. That's against lefties. And then you look at Mookie Wilson versus right-handed pitching. He has 7 hits on his card where you have multiple advance out of 33 chances. So that is production that you don't generally see that deep into a lineup when you get down into the 6, 7 area. So basically, my analysis of the Mets middle of the order is it is very good. You're certainly going to see a lot better in future videos. However, it is the depth in the lineup that the 1986 Mets bring to the plate, as well as the excellent versatility with lefty righties in the lineup that makes their offense really stand out. So if I was to analyze the Mets starting lineup, here are the numbers that I break them down at. As far as on base percentage, perfect 5 out of 5. As far as righty lefty mix and starting lineup depth, again, they get a perfect 5 out of 5. Now, as I analyze the middle of the lineup with the Hernandez, Carter, Strawberry, even though I know the numbers seem low, on the cards, again, Keith Hernandez versus lefties only 5 out of 33 and versus right-handers 7 out of 33. Those are pretty much average numbers for a left-handed hitter. Gary Carter's numbers, I say, are a little bit low. Darryl Strawberry, for a left-handed hitter, his numbers are about average. But what I really think makes this Mets lineup really stand out is, first and foremost, their very good ability to get on base with Len Dykstra, Wally Backman, and Kevin Mitchell at the top of the lineup. And then when you look at the overall depth of the lineup, I'm going to give the middle of the lineup a perfect score of a 5 as well. So overall, I give the Mets offense a perfect score of a 5 out of 5. And that is basically based on the fact that I really like their ability to get on base, and I love the righty lefty mix in the lineup, and I like the depth in the middle of the lineup. Even though 3, 4, and 5 is not great, it's extended with the 6, 7 hitters. So as far as the 1986 Mets go offensively, I give them a perfect 5 out of 5. Now let's take a look at the Mets defensively. This is an area where the 86 Mets are a little bit lacking. I'll tell you that right off the bat. First of all, let's start with the middle infield defense. You got Rafael Santana at short, who is a 2 and an E23. I would say that that is a solid defensive shortstop. Now, at second base, this is where the issue really comes in. And I have played many, many games with the 1986 Mets, and I could tell you, there's been so many times when I play with the 1986 Mets that second base defense comes into play in a game. And that goes for both Wally Backman and Tim Tuffle. Wally Backman is a 3 and an E30 at second base. Neither one is what you want. And Tim Tuffle at second base is a 4, which is what you really don't want. His E rating is a little bit lower at an E21. So basically, in short, middle of the infield defense, second base shortstop, when you combine Santana's E rating, Backman, Tuffle being 3s and 4s, Backman in E30, Tuffle in E21, I have to give the Mets middle infield defense a 1 out of 5, which is obviously not good. Now you look at the outfield defense, on the other hand, the outfield defense is really very solid, as when you look at the three starting outfielders against right-handed pitching, Mookie Wilson, Lenny Dykstra, and Darryl Strawberry, basically your average outfield defense between those three comes out to a 2 and an E7. Len Dykstra anchors that outfield. He's a 2 and an E5. So the outfield defense is very solid. I give the outfield a 4 out of 5 rating. The overall E rating for the 1986 New York Mets, as I computed up all the E ratings and divided them by the number of fielders that you have in the field, the overall E ratings actually came out okay, especially when you look at the corner infield spots. Obviously, you got Keith Hernandez, one of the greatest defensive first basemen of all time. He was a 1 in 1986, in which actually I think any year Keith Hernandez, I mean, I don't see how he could have ever been any higher than an E5 in a year. But and you got Ray Knight at third, who is a 3 at third base, which you really don't want because it's it's difficult when you hit a ground ball to third base and get a double play on it when you have a 3. However, his E rating is tolerable as he is an E21 at third. Again, not a great E rating at a Ray Knight, but I've certainly seen a lot worse. So overall, when you factor in all of the E ratings and the overall ratings defensively for the 1986 Mets, I gave them an E ratings of a 4 out of 5. So when you total up all the defensive numbers, I give their overall defense a 3 out of 5. So the defense, I would say, for the 1986 Mets is at best slightly above average. In which, if anyone remembers the 1986 New York Mets, that pretty much comes in line with what they were in real life. The 1986 Mets were not good defensively at second base. The shortstop had very sure hands, and if the ball was hit to him, you were out. However, Santana was never a guy who had really great range. He was a good defensive shortstop, don't get me wrong. So overall, the 86 Mets were about average defensively. Now, let's get into the pitching. When you break down Dwight Gooden's card, righty lefty, you'll see it basically doesn't affect him if he faces lefties or righties. Even though against right-handed batters, there is a little bit more of an opportunity to pop the ball out of the park. But when you just look at sheer number of on base opportunities when you roll his card, if you're facing him and he's on the mound, versus left-handed batters, he only allows 7 base runners out of a possible 33 chances, and versus righties, he only allows 8 base runners out of 33 chances. Now, if you look at Bob Ojeda versus left-handed hitting, he only allows 4 base runners out of 33, where versus righties, he allows 7 base runners out of 33 chances. And you've heard me in other videos say how Bob Ojeda really has the best card on the 1986 New York Mets when it comes to starting pitchers. Then let's go a little deeper into the starting rotation. You look at Ron Darling versus lefties, 11 out of 33 versus righties, 10 out of 33. So I would say at best, Ron Darling has about an average card. In fact, I'd say his card is a little underperforming considering how good of a pitcher he was, especially in 1986. And let's go one deeper into the Mets starting rotation. The number 4 starter, Sid Fernandez. These are excellent numbers for a number 4 starter versus lefties 10 out of 33 and versus righties 9 out of 33. So if I was to grade the overall Mets starting rotation, I would definitely give the ace Dwight Gooden a 5 out of 5. And I would definitely give the depth of the rotation when you look at 2, 3, and 4. And this is really driven by Bob Ojeda's card because really he has the best card on this team. I would give the Mets starting rotation depth a 5. So the Mets starting pitching grade gets a perfect 5 out of 5 score. And finally, let's break down the relievers. Let's start with the closer, Jesse Orosco. Now, Jesse Orosco is a 2 inning closer, and you're going to see versus lefties 6 out of 33 and versus righties 9 out of 33. So those are excellent numbers out of a lefty closer. Roger McDowell, the setup guy, versus lefties 9 out of 33, which is good. And then you look at his numbers against righties 5 out of 33, which is excellent, and you factor in that he's a 3 inning reliever, well, that just makes him a real weapon out of your pen and really comes in handy when you get into a bullpen game, which, as we all know, happens very often in Stratomatic. And the Mets bullpen doesn't stop there. You look at Rick Aguilera, who's a very serviceable reliever. Actually, he started as well. He's a 3 inning reliever in Stratomatic, and you look at his numbers versus lefties, 8 out of 33, and versus righties, 10 out of 33. Both of those numbers are excellent as well. So even though I would not give Jesse Orosco a perfect closer rating, as far as the closer goes, Jesse Orosco, I give him a 4 out of 5. But as far as bullpen versatility, I give the Mets a 5 out of 5. So the overall bullpen rank comes in at a 4.5. Now, if we were to break down the Mets total score in these 4 categories, I have them grade out at a 17.5, which comes out at an overall team average of a 4.4, which basically puts them as where I expected them to be, an excellent team. This was by far and away the best team in the National League in the decade of the 1980s. It is not a team that I would say does not have any holes because I spoke about some issues that they have defensively. However, when you factor in how good they are in the starting rotation, and how good their offense is, this is a very, very hard team to beat. 1986 Mets and Strat-O-Matic are just a really, really solid team. Well, that's my analysis on the 1986 Mets. Hope you enjoyed the video. My next video will be on the 1981 New York Yankees.